I'm here to tell you a story. The story of an empress, a woman whom I met long ago, a woman you may have heard of. Her name was Galla Placidia, the first, the last empress of the Western Roman Empire. You have a vision of her. She is this woman. She was a little bit like this, I can tell you. I met her, and I have a chance now to tell you her story. Seen from my viewpoint, I am nobody of great importance. You never heard of me, but I was a person of some power. I was the Magister Militum, the commander of all the military forces of the Eastern Roman Empire at the time of Theodosius II, the emperor. And my name is Aspar. Aspar is not a Roman name. I'm an Alan. I'm a Germanic origin. I was born in the fields of Northern Europe, and then in my family we were warriors, we were fighters, and my father was commander of the Imperial armies. I was a commander of the Imperial armies. And as in this role, I can tell you this story. Now, of course, if you want to see what is my face, I can show it to you. I'm this guy here. Okay? And this guy here that you see, this face, it's not me. I'm not as this face is not Aspar's face. I am Aspar. But this guy who is lending me his face, and there's some reason I'll tell you about that later. But for time being, I don't want to bother you too much about me. I want to tell you about this empress and the story of her and how I met her and what I did for her, because I fought for her. I was her champion, and let me tell you this story. So you have to imagine Byzantium, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, back in what was the 15th century after birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. If you use, I think I know what kind of time schedule you have. So in your time, you must think of the year 423 after the birth of our Lord. And I was in Byzantium, beautiful, beautiful city. I was born in the steppe, and you should know how fantastic a city like Byzantium was at that time. And my father, me, I was young at that time, not so I was already a warrior. The emperor, a young guy, his women, long story, his sister, his wife, Eudocia, an intellectual, long story. Anyway, go back to the year 423. In Byzantium, we hear from our informants that a ship is arriving in the harbor. A ship from Ravenna. Ravenna, you may know, is the capital, was at the time the capital of the Western Roman Empire. And this ship was coming, and it had the flag of the Empress. This much we could say, we could know, and we know what was going on there. We had informants a little bit everywhere in the domains, imperial domains. We had to, because we were responsible for the security of the empire. So we know who was coming, and it was the Empress herself, Galla Placidia, the daughter of that Theodosius the Great, who had ruled the two empires, the Western and the Eastern, together, Pars Orientis and Pars Occidentis. And so I asked to my father, you know what's going on? Yes, you go, Aspar, and meet this lady. And I went and took escort of military soldiers. We called them barbarians, but they were soldiers of the Imperial Guard, and we wait for the ship to arrive in the harbor. The ship came, moored at the harbor, a guard of German warriors came out. Visigoths, I knew them. Strong warriors, they came down. They said, "We bring to you the glorious Empress Galla Placidia, the Augusta." To use this term, they spoke a Germanic language. I spoke Latin. Essentially, I could speak Latin at that time. And say, "Tell to your lady that you are welcome in the great city of Byzantium in the name of Emperor Theodosius II. Please, she can land here. She is under our protection." So this lady came. Wow. Wow. Empresses are always impressive. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to meet an empress. I'm told that your time, or in the future, empress is not so common. I had the capability of meeting 3. I can tell you they're quite some ladies. You have to know them. Anyway, Empress Galla Placidia was impressive in ways that I cannot possibly tell you. Not for nothing, she was the daughter of that Galla, who was said to be the most beautiful woman of the Roman Empire, and she was a truly beautiful woman. She stood, but that's not the way she looked, the way she behaved. An empress is always regal. She behaves like an empress. She has majesty. See an empress coming down to the moor of the harbor, followed by her soldiers, her children. She had 2 children, and she met me, and I knelt in front of her. "Majesty," I said, "Augusta, you are under the protection of me, Aspar, the Magister Militum of the army of the Eastern Empire." She was so nice to kiss my hand, and they said, "I accept your protection, Aspar." Wow. As you say, can you imagine that? And that's the life as it is when these times are very interesting when I was alive. Now I'm in a place which is not very interesting. I could say that hell is a very boring place, but it's a place where we all go, and you will go too. And sometimes now I don't know exactly why I have this possibility of speaking to you who are so far away in time. But anyway, let me do this. I hope you find this interesting. So I take with my escort, everybody in Byzantium came out to see the Empress. Should have seen the crowds in the streets, and I took her to the Imperial Palace, and she met her nephew, because she was the aunt of Theodosius, the reigning emperor. That's the start of the story, but I have to tell you the background. Why was Galla there? Well, we know that, as I said, we have informants everywhere, and the story is very simple. The first emperor, Theodosius, the father of Galla, had 3 children: Honorius, Arcadius, and Galla herself. 2 males and 1 female. I think you in your future have this idea that females can be on the same level as males. In our time, yes, could be, but not so simple. So Theodosius said, "My son Honorius can have the western part of the empire, my son Arcadius can have the eastern part of the empire, and my daughter Galla, she will, well, I'll be thinking about that." Anyway, Theodosius died, Galla had nothing, and there came a very difficult period. You might have heard that Galla was a very enterprising girl, not just a beautiful girl, not just a regal girl, not just she was not born an Augusta. You become Augusta after some time. And so she married a barbarian king. She had a child with this barbarian king. She traveled all over Europe. Then she married another guy, a Roman general, and she became empress. Okay, in Ravenna. But a little problem. There was her brother, Honorius, brother, sister, emperor, Augustus, Augusta. Not so simple. I can imagine that. I was not there, but I'm sure that Ravenna, which is not a very large city, I visited it later, but It could be too small for two emperors. And indeed, the lady Placidia and Augustus Honorius, they quarreled. They started fighting, and Placidia was also the queen of the gods. She had a Gothic bodyguard, tough warriors, but in order to fight, I know as a professional commander of armies, you need money. Money, 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 money. Eventually, I don't know how Augustus Honorius had this possibility of having more money than Galla. Anyway, clash, military clash. Galla was not a great as a general. She was not her trade. So she left with her bodyguard and say, well, so is life. And not so easy for this lady. Yes, I am the Augusta, but what was she when she arrived in Byzantium? She was nobody. Had no money, no nothing essentially. And she depended on the goodwill of her nephew Theodosius II. And very interesting stories happened in the Imperial Palace. I asked to my father sometimes. My father told me something. Well, anyway, poor Theodosius. She had 3 empresses with him. It must have been a hard life. But in any case, something good happened for Theodosius and for Placidia too. And Honorius, the emperor, died. The Western emperor. And that left the empire's throne vacant because there was Honorius had no children. Good point, good moment for Galla, but at that point, and one other Roman senator whose name was Ioannis took the throne and said, I am the emperor. Everybody wants to be the emperor. I was smart enough that I always avoided that and had a difficult life, but that's another story. Anyway, comes another ship from Ravenna, first said, Honorius, our great emperor, is dead. Okay, then comes another ship and say, Ioannis, the new emperor, brings his greetings to the great emperor Theodosius. Theodosius was not happy, not at all happy, and said, well, who is this guy? I mean, I don't want to have a co-emperor who doesn't belong to my family. I said, I don't know what the hell they did in the Imperial Palace. Anyway, Theodosius summoned me and my father. The Imperial Palace went, oh, great Emperor, we are your faithful servants. Tell us how we can serve you. Ah, glorious Ardaburus, that's my father, by the way. I am Aspar, my father Ardaburus. So, glorious Ardaburus and Aspar, now I'm giving you the army of the empire. Thank you. And you go to Ravenna. You kick out this awful impostor who calls himself emperor, and you bring back to the throne the rightful heir of Theodosius I, this lady, Galla Placidia. Emperor, we are your servants. Good, my job. I am a warrior. My father was happy. Now we have an army. It's always a nice story to have an army. You should try that sometimes. You can order people to fight, to go to do things. Very nice. So Galla Placidia made me a couple of eyes that I cannot describe, but at that moment I could have fought the whole world. These things happen. You were flashed. It's normal for men to fight for women. You should know also your time. I'm sure you don't fight you do fight. I don't know, but anyway, I want to tell you this story. So start with the army, put together everything which is needed, bringing an army from Byzantium, which is in Greece, all the way to Ravenna takes a lot of effort, logistics. We didn't use that word, but we did. In Greek we used the word. But anyway, the army marched all the way through Illyria, the north, the region that you called Venezia, Venice in your time, Venetia in our time, and then approached Ravenna, while Galla Placidia was coming from by sea on a ship. And I say, my father, let me tell you, Ardaburius, he was a smart man. By all means, he was very smart. So it told me, look, Aspar, let's see if we can avoid fighting. Good fighter is someone who doesn't fight. So he went to see Johannes. Good. Went to see Johannes and he said, Mr. Johannes, I think he said that, you have no chance. Surrender gracefully, and we see that you are not harmed personally. This Johannes, unfortunately for him, was stupid enough that he said, now you, Mr. Ardaburius, you are in my power, and I will not release you until the Eastern Army leaves Italy. Bad for him. Very bad for him. Not a good idea. So I knew what was going to happen, so I took a squad of the best warriors we had. Said, guys, we have something to do. Let's go. And we went in. We made some movement. You say in your language, you go kinetic. We did, and we took this guy. Johannes say, you calm down and stay there. My father was there, a bit scared. We didn't expect that, but it's life, the life of a warrior. So he said, well, okay, Ravenna is conquered. Galla Placidia was coming by ship from Venice, where she was not happy about this Johannes, and so with Empress Augusta, what should we do with this traitor? And would be nice, I think, to say that she said, let him live, let him, I am my majesty. It's like, no, he had a hand cut, paraded, naked, and a pig running in the streets, and then beheaded. I think for you it's a big shocking, these kind of things. For us, it was rather normal. And so Galla Placidia took the throne of Ravenna with the modest help of Aspar, the Alan warrior I was. And I stayed with her for some time. She was grateful to me, and I won't say exactly in which ways, but we had some good feeling with each other. She was, as I said, a very special woman, by all means. Should see. I am just a humble warrior, but I can tell you something that she told me, and that left me impressed for the rest of my life. And me and her will speak in Latin. Latin was the military language, but she was born in Italy, where Latin was common. I was born in outside this region. I could speak Greek better than Latin, but she was speaking to me in Latin. Then she told me one day, say, you see what is the important things in life, because she said, it is not easy to be an emperor or to be an empress. I can understand that, Majesty Augusta. I said, yes. You see, I think something she told me. And I remember her Latin words. Allow me to tell you these words in Latin. De autoritate iuris nostra pendet auctoritas. Revera maius imperio est submittere legibus principatum. What was she saying? I don't know how easily you do with Latin, but she was telling me, see, Aspar, I am the Empress. I have an enormous power. She didn't say that I could have you killed that, but she could. But she said, my power as Empress comes from the law. And the Emperor or the Empress has to respect the law, which is, I think, very wise, very fundamental, very right. And that was the contribution that Galla had to the work that Theodosius II was doing in Byzantium, what you call the Codex Theodosianus, the code of laws that then was incorporated in a later emperor, Justinianus. And Galla had this good moment, a good sense of saying, the emperor does not have an absolute power. The power of the emperor is contained, defined, and limited by law. I think I was impressed by this, because I think I was not born within the Roman Empire, but I was always impressed by how the Romans are impressed by their own law, by how much they respect their law. And I think the Galla had this understanding, deep understanding, why and how laws are so important. And that's, I think, what can save us humans from what the Romans called barbarian. We were barbarians, but not so bad as barbarians. So we as even barbarians have to obey laws. There are some natural laws that we all human beings, me who lived so long ago, and you who are listening to me in such a remote future, I think, if you allow me, that many of your problems, and I know that you have many of your problems come from the fact that your authorities do not respect their own laws. And this is the thing that destroys empires, destroys armies, destroys powers, destroys everything. And with this, I think I leave you. And I left Ravenna, I left the Empress Galla Placidia. She had a long life and a long rule, within some limits, happy as we all did. I had more battles, more things. I died in battle, and here I am in hell now. And I would wish to thank this man of your times who lent to me, to Aspar, his face to give me a possibility to speak to you. And to finish, I would like to tell you how is it that me, Aspar, and this man, Ugo, I think it was his name, a barbarian name, also like me, Aspar and Ugo, we had this contact, this passage, and I show you this image at the beginning. You know what is this? This is a dish, that silver dish that I gave to a church as a homage when I was in Italy, at the time when I had come to Italy to fight for Galla Placidia. And this dish, silver dish, this is an image from the dish, is now in the city where this guy, Ugo, lives. And he saw it in a museum, what you call a museum. So this dish, and he said, "Where's this guy, Aspar?" And he spoke to me, and I spoke to him. And so we find ourselves in this curious contact over centuries and languages, because I'm speaking you in a strange language, but I use the language you can understand. And I hope you found this story interesting and that you enjoyed it. And remember, maybe if you like, the warrior Aspar, the noble Galla Placidia, the Empress, and those who lived so long before you, but if you exist, it is because we existed. And thank you for having listened to me.